Please resign is the new you're fired. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ainslie Insights, brought to you by Ainslie Bullion, Ainslie Crypto, and the Gold and Silver Standard. Today, we welcome back Sam, who's been really looking at some very interesting stuff. Look, we said this from the start. Once Trump came in, there was going to be plenty of news. That has definitely been the case. How are you going today, Sam?
Good, Chris. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Now, look, as I said, a lot of news coming out. Let's hone in a little bit on that. If we're going to talk about really what's going on with lots of things in that Trump era, but specifically liquidity, because that's something that we've been talking about a lot. Is there anything on your radar that says that things are about to increase? Is this part of the Trump story? Is it what's going on when we think about the economy as a whole and how liquidity plays into this?
Yeah, the global economy as a whole. I mean, people are starting to push back in certain regards. You know, if you look at Argentina, if you look at the United States, and now Canada, people are kind of pushing from one extreme back a little bit towards the other. And the government in Canada is facing a lot of issues most recently. So they're potentially having their kind of melee or Trump esque moment up there. And the sitting government, they're speculating that the sitting government might have to do the only thing a government really can do in that situation is try to increase liquidity and try to keep everyone happy by putting some money in their pockets, albeit at the cost of inflation in the future. But that's pretty much what a government can do if they're not going to cut costs and improve the economy the old-fashioned way. What they have to essentially do is print more money. So there's speculation that Canada might do a COVID-style stimulus to try to retain power. And that would be, depending on how that goes, other governments around the world might be copying that.
And that's so interesting. I mean, you see, I know a news poll, I think it was a news poll came out recently saying similar situation here in Australia. I wonder if that, we start to see some of that flowing on as well, that they are prepared to offer big cash splashes to try and win votes here.
So essentially, my $6 or $7 coffee is going to be 10 or $11 is what you're saying. So, but yeah, I mean, Australia and Canada are very, very similar. They're, countries that rely on commodities. They're Commonwealth countries, countries with, I guess, quite similar governments currently, very social focused. So they're in the same boat in a lot of ways. And it is a battle. I mean, against inflation, we have really bad inflation problem here, but it gets to the point where they'll have to do things like prop up the real estate market, which is something Canada's already tried to do with immigration. And yeah, we could be following Canada's lead.
So turning it back to the US specifically, I know that it seems like the central bank is not prepared to budge when it comes to rate cuts. They've certainly talked that talk, but you've got Trump coming out saying point blank that he thinks rates are too high, and he has policies that um, ultimately, well, whether it's policies or not, he's going to apply pressure there. I mean, I think that's fair to say. Do you think that his policies themselves will be that inflationary? Do you think that he manages to balance this out somehow? Do you think that his pressure on the Fed will follow through, or will they retain their independence there? What's your take on the rate situation?
Well, I don't think anyone can deny that putting pressure on the Fed and criticizing the Fed won't influence them at all. I mean, we have seen the Fed get influenced in the past from
Mm.
pressure, from presidents, although it's very, very rare. But you're seeing a lot of YouTube videos popping up now talking about things like 1913, talking about what is the Federal Reserve, and it's kind of going mainstream. Talking about things like income tax, when income tax started, is it needed, these sort of things. So I guess the pressure can be real, but as far as Trump's policies go, your question, are they actually inflationary? One thing Trump has just done is he's just spoken about the federal government and how many people are actually working full time in the office. And I'll
Mm.
be honest, the number shocked me. 6%,
That's
just
that's amazing.
6%
Like, yeah,
of
that's
federal
much slower.
employees. I mean, shocking. So 6% of federal employees in the United States are working full time in an office. And he said he wants to get them back into the office and actually set some performance criteria for them. So make sure they're actually doing something. Now, interestingly enough, and this is something that was floated by, Elon Musk's Doge, is if your job is not useful, you can be fired but paid for a year or two. Now, I'm hearing really similar things here because Trump, instead of just saying, look, you're fired, which is very Trumpian, he's saying, look, if you offer to resign in the next week, so by February 6th, we'll pay you until the end of September. So that's a great incentive. And then it makes you wonder what he's actually trying to do. So if someone's refusing to come back to the office full time and he's offering them, okay, I'll pay you until the 30th of September, is he really just saying, look, your job is useless. I'm going to be paying you for nothing anyway. So please resign yourself. And then I only have to pay you for doing nothing until September rather than paying you for doing nothing for years, or trying to fire you and then I have legal issues and it looks really bad in the media. All the people
Mm.
who were fired would be on CNN tomorrow saying, criticizing the administration. So is this the kind of new you're fired as saying, please fire yourself. I'll pay you to fire yourself, and if you're doing nothing, essentially.
I like, to me, it's either a stroke of genius, like it could backfire spectacularly, or it could be the greatest move to happen. And we'll be talking about this for many years to come, because it's so interesting to think through, depending on how many people take that up. If you're talking about 6% currently are the only people full time in the office, that's going to, regardless of what happens, there's going to be big changes there, because either a lot of people are coming back to work or a lot of people are about to leave federal employment. I mean, it could be very interesting for job numbers. We don't know what the flow on impacts of that will be, right, all through the market, really. It's going to be fascinating to watch. But the only parallel I can draw is back to when Elon took over Twitter at the time, X now, and really cut all those jobs, and arguably nothing really happened. We didn't really see huge changes to the platform, in a negative way, at least from a user perspective. There might have been some bumps along the way, but ultimately it ended up much leaner, probably ended up working a lot better. Do we see the same thing here potentially?
Well, the big mystery here is, so because it's only 6% of it, so over 90% of the federal government, if they take this offer up, could just be gone, you know,
Mm.
tomorrow. So that's the huge if. Are 1% of the federal employees going to take up this offer, or are 90%? So this is a total shot in the dark. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with this. We don't know how many people within the next week are going to say, sure, I'll take the better part of a year's pay and go look for new work. And then we're also going to see potentially drama unfold in the job market if, say, 80 or 90% quit and then they actually can't find a job. And they're
That's what I
saying,
was
gee,
thinking.
doing nothing and getting a federal government salary was quite nice. Now I have to actually go and compete. This is pretty hard. I can't find a job.
It's fascinating. Look, we said this from the start. It was going to be interesting. It certainly makes it
Mhm.
a trader's market, because there's a lot going on there. Specifically, though, we have that rate decision tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Melbourne, Sydney time. Is there anything in particular that you're looking at or expecting? I mean, that's another thing that could potentially rattle the markets if it came in unexpected. What's your view on that?
Yeah, so a lot of people have been talking about DeepSeek and how this is the big effect on all the markets. Now, it did, dent risk markets temporarily, but another big thing that's holding markets back is this FOMC press conference, and that's what I'll be waiting to see. So 30 minutes after the interest rate decision, watching what the Fed Reserve is actually talking about, what they're planning, um, seeing if they're a little bit more dovish or a little bit more hawkish on interest rates. That'll be the big factor. in my opinion, which everyone will be watching. I don't think anyone's really expecting anything dramatic like a cut or a hike or anything like that, just a hold. But it's more about their outlook, which I think will sway markets because we have banks throwing out uh, crazy predictions. Some think they're not going to cut at all. Some think they're going to cut twice. I mean, they're vastly different. So just getting some clarity on that will I think help at least risk markets and things like gold to help give them a bit of a foundation in a direction. So I think the press conference is really the thing to watch, and I'm not expecting anything crazy.
And you always make that point, really. It's less about the number itself, unless it is a surprise, but less about the number itself and more about what they're saying as the market then adjusts to future expectations. So
And finally,
certainly.
we have something else to look at rather than just the Fed numbers and an essentially silent government. Now we have a
A very
president who's
noisy
doing,
government.
yes, we have a pretty wild situation now. So that's going to be influencing things instead of simply a Fed only situation, which is refreshing.
It is refreshing. It's certainly exciting. Look, we appreciate having you on to bring us up to speed on what's going on because it is a fast changing environment. There's lots happening in the markets every day. So thank you for your ongoing work on that, Sam. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. See you next time.
Thanks everyone for watching. We'll chat again soon.